Kurt Angle, Olympic gold medal winner, pro wrestling legend. Welcome to ProSource.net.
Thanks for having me on.
You look good.
I feel good. I'm doing really good at 44. I can't feel any better.
We had some technical issues before you came on, and we ran you all over your apartment, so you're in good shape.
No, we're good now, yes.
All right. I could try to list some of your amateur and pro wrestling championships to start out here, but I think that would take all of our 30 minutes. So
let's just pass them by.
Let's just say that you won everything that there is to win. And
I think so. I'm not sure though. Not technically, I don't know.
I looked at the list. I can't imagine what there could possibly be that you haven't won. All week we've been taking questions from your fans here at ProSource.net, and we got a long list of questions. So we're just going to get right to it. Okay. Are you ready to start?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to start with one from me. In pro wrestling, some guys are huge, and you have your great showman, but I think you're universally regarded as the best pure wrestler the sport ever had, the most technically proficient wrestler.
Yeah, in many ways I am, but it does have to do a lot with my amateur background. Winning an Olympic gold medal automatically tabs you as, technical. I would say there are guys in this business that have more technical ability as a pro wrestler, not amateur wrestler, but with mine combined, amateur and pro together, you rarely, I'm the first one ever to be an Olympic gold medalist and be a world champion pro wrestler. So with those combined, people have tabbed me as the most technical wrestler in history.
Were there guys that you faced that you respected from a technical side wrestling? And if so, who were they?
Yeah, I had so many great matches, on TNA with AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy, but, and they were awesome. But when I started in WWF at the time, guys like Undertaker, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, those matches that I had with them were, I would have to say, have to be some of my favorites because, these guys made me look good because I really didn't know really much what I was doing. And, when you had a guy like Triple H lead me through a match, or Stone Cold Steve Austin leading me through a match, or Undertaker, it made it easier for me to learn. And the more they led me along, the quicker I learned, and I came into my own. And then I started leading matches.
Like I said, we have a lot of questions from your fans here, and I'm going to ask one now from ProSource fan Eric, who's a big fan of yours. He wants to know, how different was your conditioning from your Olympic wrestling days to your professional wrestling career?
Well, I was training 10 hours a day when I was training for the Olympics. I didn't have any social life. I trained 4 hours in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, and 2 at night. I lived and breathed it. I only took 1 day off a month, and it consisted of hard conditioning, obviously technical wrestling, going over technique, live wrestling, more conditioning, weight training, plyometrics, core training. Every day was a new day for me, and always I focused on just the Olympics. I didn't have a social life. I didn't want one. I knew what I wanted, and there was nothing that was going to stop me from getting it.
Going back for a minute to the Olympic gold, the famous story there is that you fractured 2 neck vertebrae in the 1996 Olympic trials, and then you went on to win the gold. I mean, obviously one of the great stories in Olympic history. Did you think when you were actually wrestling, when you were out there in the ring, did you think, hey, I'm out here, with a broken neck and I'm wrestling? I mean, was it scary?
What happened was at the U.S. Open before the Olympics, I got thrown on my head, and I tried to put my arm out. The guy threw me, and I tried to put an arm out to stop the move because if you land on your back, you give up 5 points. And I went to put my arm out, and I couldn't, so I stuck my head out, and I landed directly on my head. And all I felt was a cracking and crunching in my neck. And I had to finish that match. I had to come from behind, and I won 6-5. and I didn't go get x-rays. I had the finals 8 hours later, and I had people doing acupuncture, acupressure, ice, massage. Nothing was working, and I was in excruciating pain. Thank God I made it through the finals. I won in double overtime referee's decision, and that put me as a #1 spot at the Olympic trials. My neck didn't get better. I had 4 broken vertebrae, and I had 3 discs that were slid directly into my spinal cord, which was risking paralysis. So I definitely needed surgery, but if I would have had that, I would have made the Olympic team, and I don't even know if I'd be standing in front of you right now. So I went to many doctors. I didn't know it was broken, so I went to a chiropractor. He was wrenching on my neck, doing the dumbest things in the world you could possibly do before you x-ray. Then I finally went to a doctor. He said, your neck's broken and you have 3 discs that are sticking directly in your spinal cord, and it's causing you numbness and pain in your neck and your arms. So basically, as long story short, I went to 5 different doctors. The first 4 would not pass me to wrestle in the trials in the Olympics. The 5th doctor said, there's one option, and I said, I'll take it, whatever it is. He said, don't train, and before each match in the Olympics, we're going to stick you with 12 shots of Novocaine in your neck so you can't feel it, about 5 minutes before. So the doctor did the right thing. I mean, when I got stuck, I was in pain all day long, all day, all night. But when I had those shots in my neck, I wasn't allowed to have cortisone because it's illegal. It's a steroid, so you can't use that in the Olympics. So the Novocaine numbed my neck, therefore I didn't think about my neck. And then an hour later, the Novocaine wore off, and I was back. I was in excruciating pain again. So, you know, it lasted, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. And it was rough, but no, I'm sorry. I take that back. 5 matches in the Olympics and 2 matches in the Olympics. So 7 matches that I did that. But his name was Dr. Julian Bales, and I have to give him a lot of credit for what he did. He stuck his neck out with his profession by allowing me to wrestle. So I was very grateful. Thank God he made that decision, and I didn't injure my neck any worse, but it took a long time to get better.
All right. Well, he stuck his neck out, and you risked your neck, and so you came in there cold with no training. You weren't allowed to train. You weren't allowed to get ready, and you were fighting the best wrestlers in the world with a broken neck, and you won.
Well, let's not forget I trained for 8 years straight.
Yes.
And it was only a few months that I wasn't able to train. So those few months, you know, I did what I could do. You know, I always trained around my injuries. If I broke my arm, which I did, I trained every other part of my body, and I do what I could do on the wrestling mat. If I blew my knee out, which I did many times, I'd work around it and train around it. So I always did something. I always trained 10 hours a day. It just wasn't necessarily live wrestling, which is, you know, imperative. But, you know, those 3 months training the way I did the previous 8 years, my body was ready for the Olympics, whether I waited 3 or 6 months, as long as I maintained my conditioning level and my strength level.
All right. You know, on a related note here, ProSource fan John Mimidis asks, having had numerous injuries in your career, was there ever a moment where you thought you could no longer go the distance against the younger talent that's always coming up?
It's never been a thought. I broke my neck 4 more times. I've had 2 surgeries, but thank God I went to the right doctor, and I didn't have fusion, which I believe many wrestlers have had it, and they're out a year, and it doesn't help your career ending. As a matter of fact, I believe with Stone Cold Steve Austin and Edge, guys like that are amazing wrestlers, some of the best in history. I believe their careers were shortened due to fusion. I had what you call orthoscopic surgery of the neck, where they just repair it. They don't put any metal in your neck. They just cut out the problem and let your vertebrae heal. It was a newer method back then, and you know, I was only out 1 day. When I didn't have the surgery, I couldn't lift either one of my arms. That day when I had the surgery, I could lift both of my arms. The next day I was in the gym training. So there are amazing, you know, amazing doctors out there, and his name was Dr. Joe, J-H-O, of the Joe Institute. He was from Pittsburgh, a Korean doctor, and he had a new method, and he did it on me. And so far, thank God, in the past 8 years, I have not had any neck injuries. I had 5 previous ones before that, but I've been 100% healthy since.
Oh, that's terrific news. I didn't know it was 4 broken necks. That's amazing.
4 in pro wrestling, 1 in amateur, yeah.
Holy cow. Hey, can we talk showmanship a little? I mean, you're one of the great guys in the ring who has managed to communicate, some of the really great wrestling stories that in history. How much input do you personally have into the creative process that goes into to matches and events?
I never really dabbled into the creative part too much. I was always, Vince McMahon always took good care of me and protected me when I was at WWE. We had amazing writers. TNA has done the same, especially the first 5 years with Vince Russo being the writer. So I never really had to get involved. They've always had, they always made, I'd say 95% of the time they made the right decisions with me. Do I have the ability to say, no, I don't want to do it? Yes. Have I done that before? Maybe 1 or 2 times, but for the most part, pro wrestling is not about, always winning titles and making yourself look good. It's about making the match mean something and be good for the fans. And whether you win or lose, you want the fans to say, man, I enjoyed that match. It was a 5-star match. And, I believed it was real. You want that type of feeling from the fans. So it's not really about winning and losing and winning titles. It's about having the best matches you can for the fans.
Uh-huh. Well, I guess writing it is definitely one thing, but you're the guy alone in the ring who's got to convey and project that story out to all the fans that are there. And I think you've always been one of the great ones at that.
I give credit to Triple H and Undertaker and The Rock and Stone Cold. These guys, I started, within 10 months, I won the world title. And that doesn't happen. It has never happened before. It probably never happen again. I'm not saying that I'm some very special person. I'm saying Vince McMahon put me with the right people at the right time, and they taught me how to be a ring general so that I could construct my own matches I've had with Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero that I put together and carried the match and called the match. Because of those guys, I learned a lot more quickly. When you start out with big stars like that, and you listen and keep your mouth shut, you learn more than if you decide to take it upon yourself and think what you think is right, and it's probably going to be wrong because you're not in the business that long. So what I did is it was hard for me to do this, but I had to turn off everything I learned my whole life as far as being aggressive, trying to get the match over with as quickly as possible, ignoring the fans and focusing just on my opponent and not letting him do anything with me, turning that around and giving my body to my opponent, letting him throw me around, including the crowd, telling a story rather than just taking the guy down and scoring points and trying to pin him. That was the hardest, thing to adapt to. But when I just turned it all off and said, I'm going to reprogram myself, my whole life, the way if I want to be the best professional wrestler, I have to listen to these guys and I have to learn from these guys. And it happened. I'd say within 2 years, I might have been pitted at the time as one of the best pro wrestlers in the business during that time.
Sure. Being able to do that, being able to convey these stories ties in pretty well. I know that you're getting your movie career off the ground in recent years. Can you tell me, is there anything new that we need to know in that regard with movies?
Yeah, well, right now I've done most of the movies I've done, and I've done some really horrible independent movies just for practice. I did Dylan Dog with Brandon Routh. I did Warrior with Nick Nolte. Just finished a movie with Danny Glover called Lighthouse. But I basically got these movies. There's a great movie, a wrestling movie, an amateur wrestling movie called Beyond the Mat. that's supposed to be coming out soon. I was a high school wrestling coach. I think that's going to be a really amazing movie. But I basically got these parts myself, so I've been shopping around for an agency now. Now that I'm kind of coming to the end of my wrestling career, you know, when you're in pro wrestling, a lot of times in your contract, you know, the company pretty much, you know, owns rights to you. So it's a little more difficult to get, you know, to get cast in movies when they have control of what you're doing. And not that TNA hasn't allowed me, they've allowed me to do many things, thank God. But, you know, it's harder to get into an agency and push you when you're on the road how many days a year wrestling. So, but TNA has given me a lot of liberty to go and do the things I want to do, and I'm very grateful for that.
All right. Didn't we see you briefly in Pain and Gain?
Yeah, for about 8 seconds. You know, it was awesome. You know, The Rock is such an amazing wrestler, but he's even a better person. Obviously, he's an awesome actor. He's the hottest action hero right now today. I gave him a call. I said, hey, I heard there were some parts, you know, in the movie that, you know, that you guys don't have yet, and you know, can you get me in there? He said, yeah, how about it? You and I will have a fight scene. I said, well, that'd be great. So, you know, Dwayne took it upon himself to get a hold of Michael Bay and told Michael Bay I want him in the movie. And Michael Bay said, that's great. We'll use him. And, you know, I was in 2 scenes. I think they took out one of them, but the other scene was a fight scene with Rock. It wasn't long, but it was fun to be with him. And I haven't seen him in probably 7, 8 years, so it was just really good to see him, and I was very grateful that he did that for me.
Well, we're trying to get The Rock in here. We've had Mark Wahlberg. We've talked to him here too, so it was interesting.
Yeah, he called me. I didn't get to see him that day, so since he missed me, he called me, you know, to say, hey, I'm sorry I missed you. Here's my number if you're ever in LA. You know, I'd like to take you to dinner. He's a great guy. Wow, I mean, he didn't have to call me. He didn't have to give me his number. You know, he didn't even have to say hi, but he went out of his way just to, you know, introduce himself, even though it was by phone. And what a good guy. I keep in touch with him now. We call and text each other a lot, but he's another big action hero that's done an amazing job in the industry.
Yeah. You know, speaking of guys that you've faced in the ring yourself, of all the wrestling feuds, and there have been many that you've had over the years, which one was the most fun?
Triple H and Stephanie. It was fun to have a storyline that fans really, you know, could sink their teeth into. It was a very conniving storyline of me trying to steal Stephanie from Triple H. But I'd have to say that right up there with it is Stone Cold when we were doing our comedy segments. You know, the reason that happened was a blessing in itself. We both got injured at King of the Ring, and neither one of us could wrestle. And Vince McMahon wanted both of us on TV, so he kind of put us together. And Vince was our third guy, and we fought for Vince's, you know, attention. And it became funnier than we thought it would, so we just kept going with it. So thank God that happened, because, you know, I really got to know Steve really well, Austin, and him and I became very good friends from that.
All right. Another question from one of your fans. ProSource fan Shane would like to know what supplements, if any, do you use to aid you in your workout and to stay in top shape, mentally and physically?
I don't take a lot of supplements. You know, I really believe that, I believe you need supplements. You need a multivitamin. I've been taking the ProSource Andro Fury before my workout. I've been taking the Andro test. It's an amazing product. I take the Ultra Ray from ProSource, and I found out in the last few years, since I've been involved with a company called Barn Dad Nutrition, which is barndadnutrition.com if you go on their website. I didn't realize how important fiber was, especially this fiber. It's an 8-layer fiber matrix that was made for type 1, type 2 diabetics and for obese patients. And it's supposed to lower your insulin spikes. It's supposed to help you digest better. It excretes the sugars that you eat, so they go out of your body. You don't have any side effects like gas or diarrhea. It's actually a very high diesel fuel fiber that this doctor made that really it got patients off their medications. And so we ended up getting the rights to it, thank God, and we started the company Barn Dad Nutrition. And ever since I started taking it, I'm a lot healthier. My digestive system is a lot better. I got my body fat went down tremendously, especially my visceral body fat around my organs, so you can see my abs better. And I just never thought that you would have to count fiber. You know, you always count protein, carbs, and fat and calories, but nobody's ever counting fiber. Fiber is essential in your daily diet. You really need it. One, for, to prevent cancer, colon cancer, so you don't get diabetes. I'm not saying it'll prevent you from getting it, but it'll definitely slow it down or most likely help you prevent from getting it. So it's not just for diabetics, it's for people to say, hey, I don't want to be a diabetic, and it really helps in so many different ways. And we came out with a chocolate Fiber DX product that's been selling amazingly well. It tastes great. And the thing about the Fiber DX that we have, you can also use as a flour. So I make brownies, I can make cake without any sugar in it, and it tastes phenomenal. So now we're getting into grocery stores, not in just the supplement section, but we're getting into the flour section. And so it's been a big blessing for us that we were able to, kind of trip on it. And once we saw the benefits and what it did for you, we knew that, this is the future. People are going to start counting fiber. Now bodybuilders, they count fiber. They want to get 40 to 50 grams a day. It leans them up. It keeps their digestive system going. From your energy levels, it keeps your energy level high. Fiber and probiotics. We have a probiotic coffee. We're more of a wellness company, more than we are a supplement company, quote unquote. So we're more for overall health, lowering your body fat, keeping your heart healthy, keeping your body healthy, your digestive system. And we've done amazing. Our company is growing very quickly. So you can follow it at Barn Dad Brand on Twitter.
I know that Fiber DX product, which we carry here at ProSource.net,
yes,
is a good seller, and it sells very well here. Speaking of fiber, so many athletes take so many supplements, especially a lot of protein, but they're not really benefiting from the protein that they're taking because their digestive system isn't functioning properly. And
you're exactly right.
Fiber DX is something that I think more and more bodybuilders, or just any kind of fiber product, is increasingly important to them.
You know what? You're right. Any fiber product is good. You can take the cheapest one, but you're not exactly going to have the most comfortable lifestyle. You're going to be on the commode, and it's not going to come out dry. It's going to come out wet and messy, and So I mean, they're all good, but some of them cause a lot of gas, which is embarrassing, bloating. The Ultra Fiber DX is so, it's made so well with the 8-layer fiber matrix to prevent from doing that. And a lot of people text me and say, Kurt, I don't even have to use toilet paper when I'm done. I'm like, well, I hope you still do. But my wife always yells at me like, how'd you go to the bathroom so quickly? I said, well, it doesn't take me long because it just comes out and I'm done. She's like, it takes me 20 minutes. I said, well, start taking the fiber.
All right, now we have a good call out to use later for our website. We'll just use that whole passage right there. But no, it's true. I mean, you take a good fiber product, and all of a sudden you notice, strength and mass gains growing from that because you're just digesting your food better and using it better, especially proteins. You
utilize your food, especially your protein, better. Your body digests it better. It ends up being used more properly. So it is so beneficial in everybody's diet, and for people that don't know about it, you need to check up on it and realize that you're going to get results quicker and you're going to get more results, especially with a product like Fiber DX.
Sure, and the money that you're spending on proteins is better spent. Because
without a doubt, you're exactly right.
And back to proteins for a moment. I know that you've been a fan of the NitroWhey Ultra Elite for quite some time now. Is there something about NitroWay specifically that you think makes it better than other brands?
You know what I've gotten out of it, Kelly Conklin, who works with ProSource, I believe the VP, and I want to say hi to him, by the way, and his kids. They're wrestlers as well, so they're little studs.
Yes, they are.
But he called me up and said, "Hey, I'd like to send you the product." And what I love about it is, it has the right amount of protein. It has the right amount of carbs. Not a lot of carbs, but it has the right amount of carbs. It's low sugar. What I've enjoyed most about it is I've never tasted a protein that good. A lot of proteins are chalky or they don't taste that great. This, I can sit back and relax and sip it and enjoy it rather than just chug it down like most people do. I actually enjoy the taste more than anything. And I've been taking less of it. Like, they always say take 40 to 50 grams of protein. With the Ultra Whey, I only have to take 2 scoops, which is only about 20 to 25 grams of protein, because it's a smaller scoop. And I've got more benefit out of that than taking 50 grams of the other protein. So whatever it is, I know that it has to do with the blends of the proteins, the different blends of proteins and everything. But I've gotten better results, and I've had to drink less calories. Therefore, my body has gotten leaner because I'm not bulking up with 50 grams of protein or the other with 20 to 30 carbohydrates and 12 grams of fat, which is more of a meal replacement. But there are a lot of proteins out there that should say they're meal replacements and not protein. This one, I have 2 scoops. I take it 4 times a day, and I've had a lot more results using less, and I've gained more muscle, less fat.
And you also, you're using the Androtest too, I hear. I hear one child. Who's that?
One of my 2-year-olds.
Okay. Wants to be in the interview. So you're taking Androtest too. I'll have to check if it's clinically indicated to take twice the dosage or not. But you're getting good results.
It says take 3 a day at max. Okay, I'm doing that upon myself. I'm taking 6, but I actually got my blood work done before I started taking it. And I'm going to do blood work every 2 weeks to see what happens, because I've been told, and this is strictly a rumor, that it can raise your free testosterone by 60%. Mm-hmm. And I want to see if it really does that. It doesn't claim that. People have told me that. So since it's such an amazing product, I want to see what it does for me, and if it does do that, I'd be more than happy to come back on the air and tell you what my results are. The cool thing is, I've been good friends with Kelly Conklin, and he whenever I call him and I need something, he gives it to me. And any new products that he has, I tell him, send them my way. I'll try it out. If I like it, I'll endorse it. If I don't like it, I'm not going to endorse it, and I don't want any more of it. So Kelly knows I'm a pretty stern person, but ProSource has been very good to me, and I think they're one of the best companies out there. I love their protein bars. I know they obviously sold that part of their company, but I know that the base of their company came from the Supreme Protein bars, and obviously they're growing more rapidly with their other supplements and products. So I'm very happy for them.
Well, you'll be glad to know that Kelly is sending you a bunch of the new NitroWay flavor, which is chocolate peanut butter. Chocolate peanut butter is on its way to you. So
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
It's going to be a good one, I'm telling you.
If it's as good as vanilla and chocolate or better, it's going to be hard to believe.
That's what we're hearing, and I think that's certainly what we believe. I want to go back to a question from a ProSource fan, Alex R. Okay. He wants to know if you're going to ever return to the WWE ring in the future.
Yeah, boy. I get that probably 500 times a day.
Your fans listen.
I'll tell you this. I never say no, and that's only right. I mean, I've got to fair my fans. I love TNA. I love the talent there. I adore Dixie Carter and what she's done for the company, and just, she's created a second company so that wrestlers have an opportunity to go to not just one company but another company, and I have to commend her for that. Her and the Carter family, and Jeff Jarrett as well. Will I go back? There's a chance. Yeah, there's a chance. I have another year left on my contract, and then I have to make a decision. Do I stay or do I go? So I can't lie to anybody. I'm not going to say yes. I'm not going to say no. I haven't made my mind up yet. But I will say that TNA has been very good to me, and I'm very appreciative for that. But when I was in WWE, I made a lot of mistakes there. And, even though I asked for my release, I blamed a lot of things on Vince McMahon, and I look back and it was really what I did to myself. And it was a lot of personal problems that I had, and I realized I was gearing my anger toward the wrong person. It should have been toward myself and not Vince McMahon. So that's something I have to live with. But will I go? I don't know. And I wish I could tell the fans, but there's a possibility. But, then again, TNA has been very, very loyal to me for the past 7 years.
All right. Let's go back to the Olympics for a bit here. You're involved with the CPOW, the Committee to Preserve Olympic Wrestling. Now,
yes.
Just as a little bit of background here, why is the Olympic Committee trying to get rid of wrestling? That seems to make no sense.
All right, well, I'll make it short and sweet. Wrestling's the first sport ever. We know that. In 1896, it was the first sport, and the first recorded Olympic Games. Because of that, wrestling has such history and tradition. The FILA, the World Governing Body of Wrestling, we have been a little bit arrogant about our sport because we know we are the sport, the first sport ever. We probably have more countries involved in our sport than just about any other sport because it doesn't cost a lot of money to wrestle. You put some wrestling shoes on, you go on a mat and you wrestle. And it's one-on-one. There's not a better sport than that than, going one-on-one. There are many reasons. One is, we didn't show up for the meetings for the IOC. When the IOC decided to drop wrestling, nobody was there to represent it. When badminton got thrown on the table, badminton was there. They represented it. They paid the money they wanted to give to the IOC to stay in. The IOC said, you're staying in. When pentathlon got thrown on the table, which is the sport that was supposed to be dropped, the IOC president's son, who's also on the board of the IOC, he was a pentathlete. There are only 19 countries that compete in that sport. Only 2 or 3 of them medal. So they dominated. So you're talking about 2 or 3 countries that literally, go full-blown, toward the pentathlon. Do you even know what the pentathlon is?
No, but you could explain it to me.
I don't either. I know it has something to do with shooting, running, and horseback riding, but a lot of people don't know.
Well, I look at the roster of Summer Olympic events, and I see table tennis, and I see that weird thing with the horses, where they have to dressage, where they have to prance around. And it seems to me if they're going to get rid of sports, let's start with those.
Well, this is what happened. So all these sports got thrown on the table, and all of them got saved. When wrestling got thrown on the table, which everybody's like, why is wrestling being thrown on the table? Because they had to throw somebody on the table, and wrestling wasn't there. And when nobody was there to represent it, they said, okay, we'll drop wrestling. What happened was it became a huge wake-up call for FILA, the World Governing Body of Wrestling. The president stepped down. We got a new president within 2 days. He knows 8 languages. He's a great politician, which is what we needed in the first place. We needed better PR. So instead of being pompous and arrogant about our sport, it woke us up and realized these are the things we have to do to keep our sport. We got to be more in touch with the IOC. We got to listen to IOC and what they want to do as far as our rules and regulations. We got to make wrestling simpler for fans to understand. We can't change the rules every 4 years, which we have done. So we got to go back, make it simple. A takedown's 2 points, a turn's 2 points, a pin ends the match. make it more simple for the fans that are watching on TV to watch it and to understand it. I don't know if you know this, but the last Olympics, we didn't have periods, we had rounds. I never heard of that before. We had rounds, like boxing. So you could win 6-0 the first round. The second round you could lose 1-0, and the third round you could lose 1-0. You won the match 6-2, but you lost 2 rounds, so you lost the match. How do fans understand that? Like, he won 6-2, but he lost the match. Why did he lose the match? Well, they're rounds now. Well, when did they become rounds? This year. So it's our own fault. So we had to alter things. We had to make them simpler. We had to get more involved with the IOC. We had to alter our structure. And now it was a huge wake-up call. And thank God we got voted as 1 to 3 to be voted back in. We blew everybody away in the voting process. Wrestling was first. I believe squash was second, and baseball and softball were third. So right now, wrestling's the top one to get voted in. But, you know, God willing, in September, they pick wrestling. And I want to call them out on this just so everybody understands that the IOC thinks, well, if we vote wrestling back in, then we're going to admit we made a mistake last April. That's the only problem with what happened is, do they want to admit they made a mistake, or do they want to say we didn't make a mistake, we thought wrestling should be dropped, but we're going to keep it? Or are they going to say, oh gosh, we better drop wrestling because we dropped it earlier, we don't want people to think we make mistakes. The IOC did not make a mistake. They just misinterpreted what fans wanted to see. They wanted to see wrestling in the Olympics. There are over 150 countries that wrestle. Can you imagine a country like Bulgaria that only has weightlifting and wrestling? That's all they had to live for, to watch, and have wrestling dropped and only have weightlifting left. You're going to crush a lot of countries and a lot of kids' dreams, not just in the United States, because we have the best structure in the world for wrestling. We have midget wrestling, we have junior high wrestling, high school wrestling, college wrestling, Olympic wrestling, and we always will. It's not going to affect the United States because, you know, we're always wrestling all the way up to a college for scholarships, and no matter if we have the Olympics or not, we're going to have world championships. And being a world champion is just as big as being an Olympic gold medalist, except it's not an Olympic year. So it's not going to hurt the United States, but it could hurt other parts in the world. And I can't imagine as a little kid not being able to go into the Olympics and represent my country with a gold medal when that's what I wanted to do since I was 6 years old. So I'm just hoping to God that the IOC realizes wrestling should be voted back in. It's the #1 sport to get voted back in. And God willing, they do it and not say, you know, well, we made a mistake. They didn't make a mistake. If I'm going to say it to the IOC, you didn't make a mistake. We dropped the ball. Wrestling did, but we're asking you, give us a second chance, and we'll show you that we can do everything you ask us to.
So framing it as righting a wrong rather than trying to cover your butt and say, oh, we didn't make a mistake. That makes sense. So many of the questions that we got here had to do with this issue. There are a lot of young wrestlers, as you obviously know, there are so many young wrestlers across the country who are deeply concerned about this. This is something that they're interested in. As a matter of fact, that question, the question that has to do with this, with the CPOW, comes in from Trey Cox, who's a ProSource fan, and he wants to know, what can a wrestler do to influence this issue? Well, who can he go to? Where should he go?
The best place to go for everybody is SaveWrestlingInTheOlympics.com. Sign up for the petition. If you want to contribute money, that'd be great, because, you know, these days it's all about money and ratings. And you know, if God forbid we have to buy our way back in, then so be it. We're going to do it. But I'll tell you this: wrestling is not going to rest. And God willing, we get voted back in for 2020. If we don't, we're going to keep fighting until we do, and we will get voted back in eventually. So I just hope to God we get voted back in now, so we don't have to worry. And from now on, we're going to keep our eyes peeled, and we're going to do everything we have to do by the guidelines so that wrestling becomes a more popular sport, that people at home want to watch it during prime time instead of 3 a.m, and that, you know, wrestling, because of MMA, wrestling is at its highest peak as far as participation since 1980. And back then, there were almost 400 Division I schools wrestling. Now we only have about 105. and we're at its highest peak since 1980. Well, yeah, it has a lot to do with the Olympics, definitely. That's number one, first and foremost. But you got to look at MMA. What's the best self-defense sport there is? And what sport can you go to school and do it for free instead of having to go to a club to do jiu-jitsu and pay for it, or judo and pay for it, or boxing and pay for it? We're not a club sport. Wrestling has a structure in the United States that's awesome. So it's free, it's at your school, you get to participate, and you don't have to pay money, and it's there for you if you want it. Now, that is why the United States is so good at wrestling. Now, we have our own style, which means we have a lot of catching up to do after college because we have our own schoolboy style. It's not freestyle and Greco-Roman like the Olympics. So after college, we kind of have to play catch-up, and we got to learn a different style of wrestling. But at least we're in the sport of wrestling, and we know how to adapt to it. So, I wish that wrestling was just strictly freestyle in high school and junior high and midget wrestling. If it were, you'd see a lot more American gold medalists than you do right now. And I think we've only had, beside Rulon Gardner, we had Burroughs, Varner, and Brandon Slay, who took a silver, but the guy that won the gold medal from Germany got tested positive for something, so Brandon Slay stepped up to a gold medal. We've only had 4 in the last, since I was Olympic gold medalist, so that's not bad, because wrestling is so competitive worldwide, but it's not tremendous. It wasn't like our dream team in '96, where we had, we had 3 gold medalists, we had 2 silver and 2 bronze in 10 weight classes. That's a dream team. And things are changing now, and we're down to 7 weight classes, and they want to go down to 6, and they want to add women's weight classes, and so things are changing, but they want to alter wrestling to make it more watchable for women. How do you do that? You have more women's wrestling, and that's what they believe we need to do. So if we have to do it, we're going to do it.
All right. That leads us to our next question, which is from ProSource fan Andrea Long. So the women are in the house, and she would like to know about the future of women's pro wrestling. Right now, most of it's directed DVD. It's kind of small time. Are you approached by women who ever ask you, like, how do women break into this sport? I mean, do you see a mainstream future for female professional wrestling?
Yes, I do. I think there's always a place for female wrestling. As a matter of fact, I respect a lot of the women that do wrestle. It's going to be a different. It's going to be a different style. I mean, we do have women that wrestle like men, and that's pretty awesome. But women have to be a little more entertaining, a little more. I don't want to say sexual, but kind of flaunt themselves a little more, be a little bit more eye candy. But they also, if they want to be world champions, they gotta have great technique. And I'll give you great examples: or Mickie James, or Gail Kim, or Tara. These girls, they've been around the business for a long time, and they're some of the women that really have taken the forefront as far as being amazing female wrestlers. I mean, back in the 80s and 70s, they were managers, they weren't wrestlers. Now you have WWE Divas, and you have TNA Knockouts, and the wrestling is quite impressive. So there's a spot for it. There definitely is, and there always will be.
All right. From ProSource fan Brandon Mock, to get back to the kids who are wrestling right now. If you were coaching a high school wrestling team and were putting on a clinic for high school wrestlers, what would you show them as your favorite or most reliable takedown move?
Well, why I was so successful? In college, I had the heavyweight record for the most takedowns in my career. I can't even tell you how many I had. I was a takedown machine. That was my best. That was my best position, was on my feet. But when I got into freestyle wrestling, I realized positioning was more important than anything. And what I mean by positioning is you never want to get out of position. there's a certain comfortable spot you need to be in where your legs are bent and you have your favorite foot forward, and you always fight for position where your head's underneath the other guy's chin. So would I show them my favorite takedown? No. I would teach them how to hand fight, and I would teach them positioning so that they don't get scored on. More importantly is not scoring points. More importantly is a lot of guys like to go for takedowns and shoot takedowns, and they make a lot of mistakes, and they overextend themselves, and then they get scored on. And the hardest part about wrestling is fighting from behind. And once you're behind, you get more desperate, and then you make more mistakes, and then you get taken down even more. So would I show them my famous duck under, or my low single, or my high crotch, or my double leg? No. I would teach them for 3.5, 4 hours straight about hand fighting and positioning, and how to sprawl the right way so they don't get scored on, so at least they can keep the score 0-0. And this is just, I'm throwing this out here, and maybe they get lucky and the guy makes a mistake and they spin behind him and they score on him. I'd rather win that way than lose 5-0 because I was attacking the guy.
So definitely patience and the basics, and create the opportunity to do that very high-profile, amazing takedown.
You know how hard that was for me to do when I was shooting and scoring in college, and then all of a sudden I had to change my style to, shoot maybe 3-4 matches or shots the whole match and keep my positioning and hand fight. It was hard for me to do. It took me 2 years to alter that. And once I did, thank God, I won the World Championships in '95, and I won the gold medal in '96, and I won every title you could win in amateur wrestling, so I pretty much retired at a young age.
Well, that's good advice. From ProSource fan Manny, he would like to know if MMA had been bigger and more mainstream when you were starting out, would you have considered going down that road instead of pro wrestling after you won the gold?
Yes, I think I would have been a pro wrestler. I would, even though, thank God I did, because I didn't know I was going to be this blessed. So I really thought I'd be a mid-carder that won the Intercontinental title at most. I didn't know I was going to take to it the way I did. I didn't know I was going to be a main event. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to talk when I got out there, because I never did it before. But yes, if Dana White would have came to me in 1997 and UFC or MMA, Bellator, any other World Series of Fighting, Bellator's on Spike TV with TNA. If Dana White would have approached me in 1997 and said, "Hey, I want you to fight for me," I probably would have went that route. If it was as popular then as it was in 2003, I'd probably not have been a pro wrestler. I'd have been an MMA fighter.
Oh, all right.
First of all, I just want to show everybody the gold medal from '96.
There it is.
In '96, it was more traditional. This gold medal was probably the smallest gold medal they ever made. Get this because it was the 100-year anniversary of the Olympics. And it's basically got the Olympic goddess on it, the Olympic symbol on the back. It's got the Olympic torch. But when I got it, that medal wasn't that big. Why did all the other ones look like, frisbees, and this one's so small? This was the 100-year anniversary of the Olympics, and they made it more traditional. And I like it even better because, not only was it in Atlanta, but I love the tradition of it and the way it looks. I think it's all awesome. I won't say that before I left. But you were asking me about.
All right. Well, I don't know if you can hear me, Kurt, but I want to thank you for sharing with your fans today. And that's it from ProSource.net. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hey, you came back.
Yeah.
All right. No, thanks so much for sharing with our fans, and we're gonna wrap it up here.
Okay, well, listen, if you ever want me on again, just give me a call.
We do want you back on again. We want to see what's going on with your Andro test trial.
We'll do that. I got to take the test in 2 weeks. I'm going to take it every 2 weeks.
Excellent. All right.
All right.
That's it from ProSource.net, America's supplement superstore. Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you.